It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States. And if he isn't, he should be.
And who do we have here in the background? Who's this guy right here? Can you see him? Let's just move this forward and backward to here. Oh, he's smiling. He loves it. He loves it. That's Alan. I rode many times on the Lolita Express Dershowitz. Best buds with a pedophile who didn't kill himself. What the hell's going on here? There's Jared Kushner. And who's this right here? Who is that? That's John Hagee, pastor of Cornerstone Church. That's John Israel. I've sold my soul to Israel Hagee. Cameras are on. Oh, applaud. Yay, yay, Israel, yay. How many criminals? How many pedos are up here? Mocking the American people. Trampling on the First Amendment. Writing laws against the First Amendment, saying they're for the First Amendment. Look, you already have the First Amendment. You don't need a law on top of the First Amendment to say, no, this is really going to enact the First Amendment now. The move has been criticized by free speech advocates, and rightly so, who were concerned a broader definition of anti-Semitism could be used to limit criticism of Israel's government. You think? Check this out. This is the website of the U.S. Department of State, where they define anti-Semitism. And boy, is it broad. If you haven't read it, you should, because this will apply to you. This is part of what that law is about. You can't question the Holocaust. You can't question Israel policies. You can't broad scope and broad spectrum the Jewish people or say anything bad about Judaism. Look at this, making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, and stereotypical allegations about Jews or such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Yeah, that's all it is. It's a conspiracy. Read on, guys. I'll leave this link in the description so you can read it yourself. Amazing what they want to make criminal. And you will be a criminal if you go against this executive order. It says Donald Trump will sign, already did, an executive order effectively defining Judaism as a nationality, not just a religion, and what the White House has described as an order to combat anti-Semitism on U.S. college campuses. Now that sounds good, but anytime you have a law stating that it's going to do something like facilitate freedom of speech or combat anti-Semitism, well, you have a redundancy now. You already have a freedom of speech law. It's the First Amendment. If you make a law on top of this law that says pretty much the same thing about freedom of speech, then you're basically saying this law is not good enough. So why don't we throw the Constitution out? Why don't we throw the Bill of Rights out? They're not going to say that. They're not going to do that. But they're acting in hypocrisy and in duplicity. And that's why I hate the left versus right paradigm. Because we know the left is out to lunch. We know Nancy Pelosi and little Chucky Schumer and Adam Schiff and all those are out to lunch, man. Bizarro world. Get out the straitjacket, the paddy wagon, throw them in the padded cell. But the right is just as out to lunch. They're just as authoritarian. They want to take just as many of your rights away. Anytime a law is made, there's a transfer of power. It's a transfer of your freedom from your freedom to theirs. You lose freedom, they gain more power over you. You lose wealth, they gain your wealth. There's always a transfer in any kind of trade. Wherever there's a loser, there's a winner on the opposite side of that trade. And that's what you're seeing right here. And it's all under the guise of combating anti-Semitism and advocating free speech on college campuses. Let everybody talk. We already got that. We don't need anything else. If the First Amendment isn't good enough, if the Constitution is not good enough, Nancy Pelosi's up there the other day going, oh, how we cherish the Constitution. It's BS. How can anybody turn on their TV and look at a politician without just thinking this is just Comedy Central hour? This is an SNL skit. All this. The only problem is the joke's on us, so it's really not that funny. We're the ones being stolen from. We're the ones that have our rights removed anytime this kind of stuff happens. They make it sound like it's for your benefit. It's not. It never is. Be very concerned. Be very, very concerned anytime you see a politician in this posture right here. Pen to the paper. Pen to the paper means rights lost. Pen to the paper means wealth goes out the window. And it's transferred to all these guys right here. Oh, they're our representatives. They don't represent you. You get somebody up there signing an executive order for something that the First Amendment is supposed to cover everybody for anyway. It doesn't matter about their nationality. And then add on top of that it sure looks like respecting an establishment of a religion right there, establishing this religion as a nationality. You have an executive order establishment, and what is an executive order? It basically becomes the law of the land. He created a law. And what is a law? It's nothing more, nothing less than the opinions of any politician, president, congressman, senator, I don't care. It's the opinion of a politician backed by the threat of force. In other words, you need to pay attention to this executive order. You need to obey this law. If you don't obey this law, we reserve the right to punish you for disobeying this law. Trump to sign, he already signed it. Executive order defining Judaism as a nationality. Why would you need to go any further than that title right there? Let me remind you of the First Amendment. That this guy right here and all the guys before him, all the 44 guys before him, put their hand on their Bible and raised their other hand toward heaven and swore they would protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and yet they become the very domestic enemies that they claim to protect the people against. For example, people are always talking about impeaching Trump because of quid pro quo, when we can clearly see that Joe Biden absolutely engaged in quid pro quo with Ukraine by his own admission to the tune of $1 billion. Now, nobody talks about the fact that they should have never transferred 1 billion American taxpayer tax cattle dollars to Ukraine. Nobody mentions that Trump had no business giving Ukraine 300 or 400 million tax cattle dollars to Ukraine for foreign aid, because we can't afford it, number one, and you don't need to go to number two. Except I will mention number two is that it was extorted from the American people, stolen from the American people to be given to a foreign power. Nobody's outraged about that, but they want to impeach Trump because they're saying he abused his executive privilege. Name one president that hasn't abused his executive privilege. Name one president who hasn't committed an impeachable offense by violating the Constitution, which is exactly what Trump's doing right here, right now.